Did you know that you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership? If you haven't heard about Anchor, it is the easiest way to make a podcast. And best of all, there's absolutely no charge to do so. They have creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so you can be heard all over the place on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. It is definitely everything that you need to make a podcast in one place, one-stop shop. Make sure that you download that free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. You are tuned in to Drea's Point of View. I am your hostess, Drea. And today I'll be talking about the differences between S.A.D. and PTD. S.A.D. is seasonal affective disorder. And that is what I have. It's when you get depressed during the winter months when there is less sunlight. It starts in the fall and it goes into the winter months. They do have the depression where you can be depressed in the spring, but primarily it happens during this time of year. And I noticed it started really happening as I got older because I grew up in snow capital, upstate New York, and there was hardly any sun to begin with. But I didn't really notice a shift in my moods or anything until I got older and moved around. Some of the symptoms for S.A.D. are you feel depressed for most of the day, if not every day. You have low energy. You feel sluggish. You have difficulty concentrating. You feel hopeless or guilty. And you frequent thoughts of suicide. Now, that's probably the only symptom that I've never had, fortunately. I've never contemplated ending my life. It's just that once fall, especially winter hits, my mood just is very, very low. Very low. You have low energy, your appetite changes, and you tend to oversleep during this time of year. And according to Mayo Clinic, in the spring and summer, if you experience this, you have insomnia or weight loss or anxiety. Some of the causes of this disorder: reduced sunlight can cause the drop in serotonin that can trigger depression. Now, living in California, we've got sunlight 325 days of the year, so it's not so much that, but still, it's once it starts getting cold in the day and at night in the fall, it's a difference. There's just a difference in my behavior. Your biological clock is disrupted by a decrease in sunlight. Your melatonin level is affected by the change of seasons, which plays a role in your sleep patterns. Usually don't have a problem sleeping. I'm a night owl, but the mornings are kind of, I don't know. I've been waking up earlier when I don't have to work. I wake up a lot earlier than I need to, like maybe 4 something in the morning. And I figure by that point, I'm usually up listening to podcasts before I watch First Take. But S.A.D. is diagnosed in more women and more frequent in younger adults. That part I found interesting. I would think it would be older adults. Some things that may increase having it are your family history or, those who are bipolar. Don't know if there's anyone in my family who experiences this or not. Some ways, according to research, of coping are building a toolkit, like having more self-care, like, maybe, pampering yourself more, getting more massages or doing your nails more, anything that you feel might help you out. Write down those ideas. Just putting it out on paper helps build your kit. And then seeking light, not wearing sunglasses when you go out. Just let the light hit you. Or if you drink coffee or tea, drink near the window. And then they say light therapy. Buying a lamp that has, 10,000 lux, cool white fluorescent light may help. And then they also say finding something to look forward to. Being that everything seems to be canceled, I guess it's the small things. Like if you plan on going out to dinner, meeting up with friends, or anything. It could be anything. Or when we get out of this, whenever that'll be, something to look forward to. That also leads to the holiday blues, which a lot of us have. Sometimes people have holiday depression. This isn't a good time of year for a lot of people. That's why I stress the need to check in on people, even if it's a simple text. You never know what somebody's going through. It's not a heavy time for all of us. A lot of us miss family members, who weren't there anymore since when we were a kid. We are worried about, stretching ourselves too thin. A lot of times during the holidays, you got to get very busy. You got to do this, you got to do that, especially if you're the head of household. And it says for that we can begin a new tradition, do something that we've never done during this time of year. I would think maybe putting up decorations, maybe putting them up earlier. Try and volunteer somewhere, which I remember I used to do that, trying to help out at a shelter for the holidays. Not giving in to any holiday pressures, or even something simple like taking a walk in the park or along the beach. I know that helps me out a lot. Just being on the beach is just therapeutic enough for me. And of course, that leads into my part about what PTD is. And that is also what I experienced, post-travel depression. It's when you feel depressed and anxious when you come back from a trip, particularly somewhere overseas. And it involves you crying, you get fatigue, anxiety, headaches, isolation, loss of interest in things you enjoy. I know every time on my birthday, every year, I like to go overseas. Obviously, I couldn't do that this year. I planned on it, but I couldn't even go to Vegas. So that was depressing enough for me. But I know 2 years ago, I took a trip to London, one of my favorite cities. Shout out to my fellow podcasters who are from London, Old School Movement. Whenever you guys decide to let us back in, I will be there. And I remember the day I came back, I just got so depressed. Well, for one, I had cramps, of course. And then the next day, I wound up losing some money. I was, I guess I was careless with it. I mean, I went to the ATM, put it in my pocket, which I thought was deep enough, but lost some money. And then to this day, I swear my neighbors took it. I swear that. But yeah, it just is that type of depression where you get so depressed. And some things it says that we can do, anyone who experiences that, to cope with it, it says that we can keep hold of our memories in a creative way by making a montage or a travel blog or even a scrapbook. It says that we can have a staycation and tour our own area. There's a lot of places I'm sure that we have not seen in our own cities. I know Groupon has a lot of activities on there. It says we can evaluate why we're so sad and depressed once we get home. Like, what can we change about our home life to see what can we do for our home life? What can we change about it to make the situation better? And we can also plan the next trip. That's usually what I do. Like once I get back, I'm planning when I'll go back or going somewhere else. So I just wanted to talk about these because no one seems to talk about the sad times this time of year. Depression is real. And for those of you who wanted some extra help, just remember that suicide prevention line is 1-800-273-8255. You are tuned in to a female-hosted podcast who values you and your time. Each week, I will deliver short and sweet perspectives with no sidekick. So please, sit back, put your feet up, and allow me to bring you Drea's point of view. You have been tuning in to Drea's Point of View. I can be heard on Podbreed Network, Good Pods, Top Black Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Breaker, Spreaker, and more. Feel free to leave me a comment on my website, www.dreaspointofview.com, or on social media. I'm on Facebook and IG, Drea's Point of View, as well as Twitter, Drea Point. It's been my pleasure bringing you a part of me, and I hope that you remain to be a listener. Until next time, take care.